Hello, everybody, and welcome. Let me pay a few bills here and keep us from getting tickets.
You're listening to a Dare Media Group and Mastiff Media radio station. From Dare Media Group, Radio X Gold, Radio X Country, 6RXM, Radio X Magic, and Dare Talk Radio. And from Mastiff Media, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Forward Radio, Mastiff Sports, and Shady News Radio. For more information, visit daremediagroup.com.au or mastiff.medias.
You're tuned to the Sportcat show.
The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat. I am running a few minutes late, and if you want to guess why, it's Jurg's fault, but that's okay. We were arguing on his channel. Hello, Denise. Everybody, we are live on the tube. Come over to YouTube and find us. The Paranormal, 3 words, guys, and it is spelled with a Z, or just search out the Sportcat show. Hello, Brenda. We have a great chat. Some people are in here, and they're already arguing about me, so I love it. So hello, Harley. Welcome to the chat. I think I saw Chris in there. Hello, Chris. Welcome. And we probably got a few more people in here. I'm not sure. Oh, KG. Welcome, KG. I'm glad you're here. Wendell, glad you are here. We missed you the other day. So, all right. Let's see here. So, yeah, if I'm ever running a few minutes late, just blame Jurg's. So it's his fault. I blame him for everything. So, whoa, I don't know what button that was. All right, well, let's see here. It is currently 10 after the hour, 1:10 or 13:10 here in the United States. We want to say good morning to Perth. It is 1 a.m. It's 3 a.m. in Sydney. Thank you all for listening to me. And if you're in New York, it's 1 also, but Chicago's 12, Denver's 11, LA is 10. And we do have some listeners now in Anchorage and Honolulu. So good morning to you as well. All right. Well, and I do want everybody to at least come over. If you don't join the chat, I won't be too mad at you, but my chat may. But I would like for you to at least subscribe. So we're trying to get our subscription up so that we can get monetized. So let's see. Well, Brenda, you should come over there and argue with us. So we always have good arguments. So, all right, well, let's do what we always do. Let's go back in time a bit. We're going to go way back to 1521. Spanish conquistadors led by Hernan Cortez capture the Aztec Empire in wherever the Aztec was. I can't pronounce those words. So Tenochtitlan. All right. Yeah, that's good. Wendell, what did you say? No, I don't think I know her. Wendell. We'll talk about that off air, Wendell. 1536, Buddhist monk set fire to 21 temples throughout Kyoto. Well, all right. In 1642, Dutch astronomer Christian Heinz discovers Mars' solar cap. How did they discover it? Did they go to it? 1788, Persia joins the Anglo-Dutch alliance to form the Triple Alliance to prevent the spread of the Russo-Swedish War. In 1937, Second Sino-Japanese War. They start the Battle of Shanghai for a 3-month conflict involving 1 million troops. Oh, here we go. 1942. The Manhattan Project commences under the direction of General Leslie Groves, U.S. General, with the aim of developing an atomic bomb. A horrible day. 1967, Bonnie and Clyde crime film directed by Arthur Penn, starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. I can't get around Warren Beatty's other movie. I just can't. 2013, Crash My Party, the 4th studio album by Luke Bryan, is released. It's the album of the year for 2014. 2008, American super swimmer Michael Phelps wins 3 gold medals, all in world record time in one day at the Beijing Olympics. All right. Catch up in the chat here. Yes, Denise and Brenda say welcome everybody. Yes. And if I didn't tell you, please like, share, and subscribe. So Chris, you are correct. And if you were paying attention, I did concur. For those of us listening on the radio, Chris's comment is, Ross had to break the news that he is an asshole before he signed off, to which I agreed. So, Wendell, I don't know. I'll have to look. I'm not sure. That would probably be a better question for Brenda. She's more up on my stuff than I am. Apparently, she knows how to make people moderators, and I don't. So, who knew Brenda was more tech savvy than me? In 1792, King Louis the 16th of France is arrested for treason and declared an enemy of the people. Interesting. The French Revolution was in full swing, and the country's lower classes were fighting back against the country's vast social inequity and absolute monarchy. Louis and his wife, Queen Marie Antoinette, had been forced to flee Versailles and accept a new constitution that reduced them to mere figureheads with no power. She was arrested alongside Louis, and the French National Convention completely abolished the monarchy weeks later. In the end, she was executed by guillotine October 16th, 1793, 10 months after Louis had met the same fate. 1860, Annie Oakley is born. The famous sharpshooter is born in Phoebe Ann Moses in Darke County, Ohio. She grew up in poverty and honed her shooting skills while hunting to provide for her family when she was just 15. She won a shooting contest against a marksman named Frank Butler. The two later would marry to join Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, performing around the world for sold-out crowds and even royalty. 1961, construction begins of the Berlin Wall. Just after midnight, soldiers in the Soviet-controlled East Germany began laying down a barbed wire barrier through the city of Berlin, marking the foundation of the Berlin Wall. When residents awoke in the morning, they realized they were suddenly cut off from friends and family members who lived in the other half of the city. The wall eventually grew to become a 27-mile-long brick and concrete structure that stood 10 feet tall. It wasn't until 1989 that the Berlin Wall finally fell. Famous quote by the president is, "Mr. Gorbachev, please tear down that wall." 2004, Julia Child dies at the age of 91 in Moncito, California. She was a beloved American chef and television personality. She did not always know that she was destined to be a culinary icon. During World War II, she worked as a spy for the CIA. It was during this time that she uncovered her love for recipes and cooking while developing a shark repellent recipe for the CIA. After marrying her husband, Paul Child, they moved to France and attended Le Cordon Bleu, one of the most prestigious cooking schools in the world. Later, Child would write several cookbooks and host her own show. From then on, she became a household name. My mom actually had been accepted into that school, but she decided she wanted to stay with family. So, and nuclear bomb in Berlin both started on August 13th. Two bad ideas. Agreed. So, all right. Well, what is today? Well, today is, not that button, dumbass. Today is August 13th. It's National Prosciutto Day and Filet Mignon Day. Well, they don't have much. Let's see what birthdays are today. Well, we talked about Annie Oakley. Julius Freed, the co-founder of Orange Julius. Bert Lahr, an actor who played the Cowardly Lion and farm worker Zeke in The Wizard of Oz. William Birnbach, co-founder of the DDB Worldwide Ad Agency. James Benton Parson, the first black federal judge. And Don Ho, he's a Hawaiian pop singer. And let's see. And memorable events. In 1892, the Afro-American newspaper begins publication in Baltimore. 1918, women are allowed to enlist in the Marine Corps for the first time. 1942, the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers authorizes construction of the bomb. Am I allowed to say that? The development of substitute materials for Project Manhattan. 1950, President Truman gives military aid to the Vietnamese regime of Bao Dai. President Eisenhower establishes the Government Contract Compliance Committee. Soul singer Curtis Mayfield becomes paralyzed after stage lighting equipment falls on him. Okay. And let's see here. Let's go to see what is today. That's what I'd ask a minute ago, but apparently nobody knew. Today is Left-Handers Day. If you know anyone who's left-handed, it's National Filet Mignon Day. I think it's overrated. National Prosecco Day, Prosecco Day, Oban Festival, Royal National Agriculture Show Day in Queensland, Women and Families Day, and World Calligraphy Day. Okay. And there you go. Today's pretty uneventful, huh? Most days have all kinds of things. All right. Well, here in the South, particularly East Tennessee, we hadn't had rain in certain parts of the state in several weeks. And in East Ridge, which is just outside of Chattanooga, between Chattanooga and Knoxville, 2 adults and 1 child die after a tree collapses on a car during the storm. And it happened early Wednesday morning. The 2 adults were husband and wife, Hamilton County Commissioner Lee Helton and the 2 adults were a husband and wife, Hamilton County Lee Helton said in a meeting Wednesday morning. The SUV was traveling northbound on Southmore Road when a large tree fell on top of it. East Ridge Police said traffic investigators are investigating the crash. The tree damaged power lines, disabling traffic signals at the intersection of Ringgold and Southmore. They're working to identify the victims and make notifications. 1 person is also missing, according to the Chattanooga Fire Department. Spokesperson Lindsay Rogers said Wednesday morning, a man waded through flooded waters on East Brainerd last night, and he's not been seen since. Don't drive in flooded water. Don't walk in flood water. Goodness. Let's see. So the severe storms swept through the area with tropical heavy-like rain, and it's going to continue possibly throughout today. We'll discuss that in a little bit. So flash flood watch is in effect through tonight for most of the state. There's a rapid rise of streams and creeks, so do not drive through flooded water. Do not walk through it. See, these seems like things you shouldn't have to tell people. I don't know. So we've talked about the crime in DC and how that the numbers are skewed. I will not deny that. And that's because of an internal affair investigation into their own police department, probably skewed towards less crime so that the mayor can get elected. Just saying. All right. So this article comes to us from the Daily Wire. In the New York Times, chief White House reporter is challenged to walk DC at night after mocking Trump. All right. So New York Times correspondent and MSNBC analyst Peter Baker ripped President Trump for his efforts to clean up crime in Washington, D.C. Grabien founder Tom Elliott superheaded an effort to raise funds challenging Baker to walk the streets at night unarmed. On Monday, Baker posted the following statements on X, citing a non-existent crime crisis. Trump plans to take over Washington, D.C. police and put troops in the street on the nation's capital. Contrary to his claims, violent crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low. The worst single crime day spree in modern Washington history took place on January 6 of 2021. Trump issued no order to the National Guard to intervene. Mike Pence said and later pardoned the perpetrators. Trump himself has been convicted of 34 felonies and is the first criminal elected president. Boy, how can we tear this article apart? We'll go over to X and find Nancy Pelosi. And once you find her, read her tweet about January 6th. And then please read the tweet following it right after by the Capitol police officer that begged for 6 hours to have National Guard help. Now, granted, Trump probably could have stepped over her, but there is a hierarchy where he couldn't call it in himself, meaning the police chief, not Trump. We talked about the skewered numbers. So last night, I believe, was the 100th murder in Washington, D.C. Not sure where they rank in the murder city, but it was the 100th. And, well, we're not even going to go into the criminal charges. So Peter Baker cites these claims, even though apparently some podcaster in a remote southern area in the Appalachia can clearly find the correct information, or at least more accurate information than this guy who is the chief White House reporter. You'd think he would know this, but I guess they just don't want to do it. So at any rate, Elliot is pledging $300 to Peterson to live stream himself walking the following route unarmed after 9 p.m. And if you know anything about it, this comes up through the Fort Washington side in PG County and goes all the way in through DC, straight down the city. So an hour later, he updated the challenge, saying we're already up to more than $1,000 to a charity of your choice. We're inviting New York Times Peter Baker, who assured us the streets are safer than Disneyland, to take a scenic, unarmed stroll through the nation's capital after 9 p.m. on a weekend night. The route, a lovingly curated trail of fun, weaving through some of DC's most charming neighborhoods. No security detail, no pepper spray, just pure unfiltered utopia. But wait, there's more. I'll double my pledge if Peter sends his wife in his place, because what better way to showcase safety than let your loved ones experience it firsthand? I personally pledged $300 to kick things off, and many others have already offered to join in. The more we raise, the more irresistible this opportunity become. $500, Peter gets a GoPro for crystal clear night footage. $1,000, matching DC's safest streets in America t-shirt for him and his cameraman. $2,500, we'll buy him some gold chains so he walks in style. $5,000, the walk expands to 2 nights, 1 weekend night and 1 weeknight for scientific comparison, of course. Every single dollar will be donated to Peter's choice. So not only will this prove the streets are perfectly safe, it will also support a good cause. If Peter declines, we'll select another high-profile believer in the, quote, no crime crisis narrative to take his place. And then Utah GOP Senator Mike Lee chimed in, I triple dog dare you to take this challenge. So he's been triple dog challenged. So let's see. All right. So I really am really disappointed that the chief White House correspondent can't bother to pull up articles from news sources within his own city and probably written by people sitting near him, citing internal affairs investigations into the Metropolitan DC police commanders changing and skewering the numbers so that their different districts that they command show lower crime. Thereforth, they get a promotion, they get a bonus, they get a raise, and the DC mayor gets a vote for it being so safe. So, come on, man. God. Like I said, a guy who runs a stupid show in the deep remote southern Appalachia can do it. You're sitting right there in the goddamn White House. Fucking morons. All right. Don't get my blood pressure up. CNN slaps Trump with a new nickname and accidentally makes him sound cooler. The president of the United States declared himself crime fighter in chief, and he's taken over Washington police force. In the grand tradition of, quote, Cocaine Mitch, McConnell, CNN Newsnight host Abby Phillips accidentally gave President Trump a new nickname that, if anything, will only make him sound cooler. She began a roundtable discussion with a reference to Trump's decision to invoke Section 740 of the Home Rule Act and deploy federal resources in Washington, D.C. in an effort to tackle the rampant violent crime that has been plaguing the city and putting visitors at risk. Donald Trump makes himself Batman, and the nation's capital is Gotham City. Well, let's get this right. America, what she's talking about. Donald Trump makes himself Batman, and the nation's capital is Gotham City. The president himself has declared himself crime fighter in chief, and he's taking over the Washington Metropolitan Police Force. It's a move that the D.C. mayor is calling unsettled and unprecedented. In immediate response from Trump voters, ways to embrace the nickname, they flood X with memes and comments referring to Trump as Batman. I voted for this, one man posted with an AI-generated image of Trump as Batman and Vice President J.D. Vance as Robin. I gotta say, Vance makes a better Robin than Trump makes a Batman. Maybe the sagging man boobs. I don't know. So I'm what other Gotham needs me to be. Another one chatted, including an image of Trump in the cape and cowl. Now that's a much better picture. So we call this stumbling upon truth. One quipped about her comment. Let's see here. There was another article I had here. Let's go. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I think I got this out of order. Brenda tells me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. It's my show, Brenda. I can get riled up if I want to. Just remind me at the top of the hour. All right. So DC police chief seemingly doesn't understand the chain of command. This comes to us from Off the Press. Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela Smith is facing backlash and mockery on social media after she appeared to not understand a question from the media about the department's chain of command amid President Donald Trump's recent federalization of the department. Her reply was, this is a quote, this is a question. Can you tell us what the chain of command is now? A reporter was heard asking Smith during a press conference Tuesday morning. She replied, and I quote, "What does that mean?" "Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, or is it you? How does this work?" the reporter continued. Before Bowser stepped in to explain the department's chain of command following Trump invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia's Home Rule Act, which allows for the president to assume emergency control of the Capitol Police Force. The exchange came amid Bowser's brief presser Tuesday morning following her meeting with attorney Pam Bondi. "Our organizational chart, how we do business, how we fund the police, none of that has changed," she explained, adding that Bondi is working as, quote, Trump's proxy under the federalization order, and that pair are in close communication. Police chief should know the chain of command. It's kind of her job. Just saying. It's kind of your job when you know the chain of command. When you get on a scene of an emergency incident, there's a chain of command. As a firefighter, I can't go running to the chief unless there's a dire emergency, of course, and go, "Chief, there's fire on the 3rd floor, Bravo section." I can't do that. I got to tell the incident commander who tells the chief. It's kind of the way it works. It's been that way for years. How do you not know your own chain of command? You're the friggin' chief. DEI. Okay. Harvard scientist urges NASA to send peace message to mysterious object. Well, this comes to us from the international news today. Scientists are urging the, quote, peace message to the mysterious space object named 31 Atlas, which is racing towards Earth. It's going at 36 miles a minute, by the way. The object was first discovered in July of 2025 and has been labeled as an alien UFO by Harvard physicist Dr. Avi Loeb. However, he isn't 100% sure of the origins, but to be on the safe side, he urged NASA to send a message to the interstellar object. He suggested that a radio message could be sent in hopes of detecting a response, but for what now, the only way to reach it is a beam of light. Talking to the Daily Mail, the physicist said that he wanted to beam, "Hello, welcome to our neighborhood, peace." Loeb warns that the current speed that it is expected to reach closest to the sun on October 29th, 2025, and can reach Earth by December. Hey, well, that's Mrs. Sportcat's birthday. We're going to be invaded by aliens on Mrs. Sportcat's birthday. All right. That way I won't forget it this year, right? He also expressed a fear that in case it turns out to be an alien probe, it gives humanity only months to prepare for a possible encounter. Now, let me just stop here for a minute. I've listened and watched a lot of shows, so you guys and gals don't have to. And I can tell you that YouTube is already exploding with theories and weirdness. I pray we don't get to the point where we're standing out in the field naked, holding signs of peace. But I am worried for a lot of the channels I follow. A visitor to our backyard like 31 Atlas can easily enter our home planet Earth within a travel time of less than a few months. He acknowledged the dangers associated with beaming a light at the object. He said that any intelligent life aboard may see that as a threat. Contrary to his thoughts, more than 200 researchers have concluded that the 31 Atlas is a comet rather than an alien probe. We come in peace. Ba weep, grano weep, nitty bond. Oh, good Lord. Why do I keep hitting that button? Oh, yeah, Brenda, there's already a few that are just, yeah, it's messy. And you know what scares me about that is they get hundreds, thousands of views. They have 10,000 subscribers. And I can't get past 750. Come on, man. Help a brother out. All right. So I also have a theory on this. And this wasn't necessarily my theory, but I concur with another YouTuber that this could be. So WTOP News reports, trying to avoid problems, D.C. Attorney General is lying in wait during federal takeover. D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab said Tuesday night that his first instinct isn't to file a lawsuit in response to President Trump's federal takeover of the city police department, instead emphasizing it is watching to see who is running the day-to-day operations at the local agency. Schwab said that violent crime has been going down in D.C. since he was elected in 2023, and that Trump's comments about crime in the city are not consistent with facts on the ground here. Once again, look at the actual stats. Once they come out, because we don't have them now, Schwab's comments come as city leaders grapple on how to respond to the administration's decision to invoke the Home Rule Act. There are limited circumstances in which the law can be invoked, and there has been a special emergency, Schwab said. It's limited in duration, has to be for a federal purpose rather than a local policing reason. Running into court is not the first thing that we think about, he told WTOP. We have to seek judicial relief from a court. We will do so, but the most important thing is to try and see that the laws are complied with. At a press briefing, Carolyn Levitt said about 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made 23 arrests for things such as homicide, firearms, fair evasion, don't know what that means, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, and driving under the influence of alcohol, or drugs, I guess, among other things. A White House official say they are not specifying what agency made which particular arrests, instead providing a list of participating agencies over the course of the operation. Meanwhile, Schwab said he is watching closely to see that our chief maintains control over the command and operations of MPD. Their own attorney knows the chain of command. On Monday, Mayor Bowser said the police chief remained in charge of the agency. The threat to take control of local policing at MPD is not going to make D.C. safer, he said. There are many things the president and Congress could do to help drive crime down if that's what they want to focus on doing. I hope that's what they will focus on doing, but a takeover is not one of them. Schwab's office mainly prosecutes juvenile crime, and the U.S. Attorney for D.C. prosecutes adults. Asked if he anticipates Monday's announcement would change the collaboration between the two offices, Schwab said it's a relationship where it requires the U.S. attorney to be committed to a partnership with the district. And I see no reason to expect the U.S. attorney's office won't continue to do what we've been doing together for many years. All right, so my take on this is anytime Trump does something, the first thing they do is take him to court to try and get a judge to stop it. But if you notice in this particular incident, aside from the fact that they keep reporting fake news, the National Guard is on standby. And if they do come in, it's going to be behind the scenes. It's not going to be patrolling in Humvees with guards walking down the street. It's not the way it's going to work. And that's been well delineated. So if they always sue at the drop of a hat, why have they not done that on this? Well, perhaps because with midterms coming up, they can also take credit for a massive reduction in crime, for massive sweeping resolutions to city problems. They can say it happened on my watch. I worked with them. Reelect me. Just a thought. I don't know. Just a thought. So. And speaking of why he gets sued for stupid things, hold on, let me catch up here in the comments. Chris says, how do these, quote, experts know this thing is going to its highest maximum speed and couldn't just floor it and be here in seconds? It's a good point, Chris. It's a good point. 36 miles a minute, that's pretty damn quick. This is one of the things I was just talking about. An MS-13 member serving time for murder sues President Trump to be recognized as a woman. This comes to us from Off the Press. So they can sue him for everything. Why is the police union not suing? Why is the district attorneys not suing? There's no suits. There's no legal action. So why is that? An MSNBC, pretty close. An MS-13 gang member currently serving time for murder is now demanding to be recognized as a woman and is suing the President of the United States to make that happen. According to a report published on Sunday, Oscar Contreras Aguilar was sentenced to serve 21 years in prison for the kidnapping murder of a 14-year-old. He has filed a lawsuit against both President Trump and the Bureau of Prisons, claiming that they have refused to recognize his gender identity. He was a known member of the Maral Salvatrucha, I don't know, he's MS-13, a transnational criminal gang known for its ruthlessness and brutality. Under the alias Ativdo, I guess that's right, really don't care. He was arrested in 2017 in connections with the 2016 murder of 17-year-old Edgar Mendez, who was believed to be a rival gang member, and 14-year-old Sergio Tremolo, who Contreras Angola and other members of MS-13 believed was cooperating with law enforcement. So he shot a snitch. It was not until 2024, after filing a number of complaints alleging attempts on his life and other issues, that he took the name Fendi G Sky and claimed to identify as a female. He began filing complaints stating the trans-identifying prisoners were mistreated in comparison to others. Transgender women prisoners and women prisoners in men's prisons, he claimed, are often met with harsher, more degrading treatment than their cisgender counterparts. Prior to changing his identity, he claimed that fellow gang members had attempted to kill him on several occasions after discovering he had been acting as an informant. So he killed snitches, then he became one. He also filed a legal complaint against Attorney General Merrick Garland in 2022, claiming that he had been working as an informant in 2016 and 2017, and that his 21-year sentence has been reduced as a result of the plea agreement. I'm pretty sure that's not going to go very well. Denise, leave my man alone. Which man is that, Denise? It's not this MS-13 guy, I hope. All right. Well, Trump and Putin are scheduled to meet later this week at Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson. What we know, this comes to us from Newsweek. The U.S. military base in Alaska will host Friday's meeting between Vladimir Putin and President Donald Trump. Best location to meet the security requirements needed for the high-stakes summits, it has been reported. CNN first revealed the long-anticipated meeting would be held at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, which is the largest military facility in Alaska, and it hosts thousands of military personnel and their families. Why it matters? Moscow has said it was a, quote, logical that Putin first visits the U.S. and the first visit in the U.S. in a decade should take place in Alaska, and Russian media have made much of the symbolic nature of the location, which we've discussed this before, was part of the Russian Empire until 1867. While the base offers the security needed for such a summit, there are concerns over the optics of the head of state of an American adversary visiting a U.S. military base. Trump announced last week Alaska would host a summit on August 15th, just a few days from now, with Putin, the aim of making progress in ending the war in Ukraine. European venues such as Vienna and Geneva were ruled out because of legal risks of hosting Putin, who faces international criminal arrest warrants over war crimes. Putin had floated the United Arab Emirates as a location before the Kremlin agreed to meet in Alaska. CNN said the capital, which is Juneau, and I probably pronounced that wrong, I apologize to my Alaskan friends, and the city of Fairbanks have been considered, but summit organizers saw Anchorage as the state's biggest city as the most suitable location. Now, they're also evacuating Juneau because, well, the floods. So we talked about that yesterday. We'll probably talk about it again. The outlet said the decision was made that the joint base located on the northern edge of the city would be the only location that would meet the security requirements for the historic meeting. The joint base was formed from the United States Air Force Base and the United States Army Base, Fort Richardson, which merged in 2010. It's one of the 12 joint bases that were created with the Base Realignment Closures Commission in 2005, which coordinated and consolidated American military sites following the end of the Cold War. The site of the headquarters of Alaska Command, Alaskan NORAD Region, Joint Task Force Alaska, and the 11th Air Force, the 673rd Air Base Wing, and the 3rd Wing and 17th Wing, as well as other tenant units. The base has a large military community of over 32,000 people, or 10% of the local population. It hosts planes like the F-22, the Air Force's newest fighter, the E-3 Sentry Airborne Warning Control aircraft, the C-17 Globemaster, which is described as the newest, most flexible cargo aircraft to enter the airlift force. White House spokesman Carolyn Leavitt said that Trump intends to focus on ending the war in Ukraine as his priority, but other topics such as sanctions and cooperation in the Arctic could also come up. What people are saying, Secretary of State Mark Rubio said, "We're going to know very early in that meeting whether this thing has any chance of success or not." John Bolton, President Trump's former security advisor, told CNN the only better place for Putin than Alaska would be if there was a summit being held in Moscow. Niles Gold Davies, the former British ambassador to Belarus, told Sky News, "It's easy to imagine Putin making the argument during this meeting that Trump, well, look, territories can change hands. We gave you Alaska. Why can't Ukraine give us part of its territory?" Details of Friday's meetings still have yet to be finalized, according to CNN. Before then, Ukraine European allies will continue diplomatic maneuvering, which includes online talks with Trump Wednesday, hoping to convince him to respect Ukraine's wishes. Oh, Denise says, "My president." Yeah, I'm not picking on your president. I would say I'm more of a fan. Some days, some days he does stupid stuff and you got to call him out. You know, like yesterday yesterday, the day before, during a presser, he called Alaska Russia. So, yeah. All right, so Dana White, this comes to us. What's our sports of the day from Off the Press? Dana White says the UFC plans a cage match fight at the White House. And it's not going to be between either ex-presidents and current presidents or world leaders. It's planning a cage fight which will likely be broadcast on CBS on the White House grounds. This is going to happen, he told the columnist at the Wall Street Journal when asked about the prospect of fight a fight at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. His comment came just after they announced a $7 billion deal with media conglomerate Paramount to stream the league's fights on its direct-to-consumer subscriber platforms, Paramount Plus. The deal is Paramount's first major business move since making a closing of a multi-billion-dollar merger with fellow entertainment giant Skydance last week. The merger won approval from President Trump's Federal Communications Commission after the company promised to retool CBS News coverage towards a more diverse set of viewpoints and scale back its corporate diversity policies. Why are they calling it President Trump's Federal Communications Commission? It's not President Trump's, it's the American people's. It's words like that that annoy me. Like the other day, what they were calling cities. I will stick with a little Washington news and we'll stay in sports. There's going to be a quarterback controversy in DC. NFL quarterback gives the perfect response to a fan's mom who sent a flirty message. Washington Commanders quarterback Sam Hartman showed his appreciation for some support of the mother of a fan who couldn't help but profess her admiration for his looks. Hartman, the former Wake Forest and Notre Dame signal caller, is set to enter his second year in the NFL. The 26-year-old hasn't got much playing time, but still becomes something of a heartthrob in the eyes of the league's female fans, thanks to his long hair and beard. With the NFL in the middle of preseason, fans have been able to watch practices. One practice saw Hartman interact with a fan who asked the quarterback to send her mother a message. "Sam, would you mind saying hi to my mom, Susan? She thinks you're super hot," the woman asked him. With a smile, he replied, "Susan, I don't discriminate from age, but I appreciate your support." Oh, so he is apparently going to be a heartthrob. Oh, no, not you off the what? Denise? No, not you. Oh, gotcha. I thought, never mind. Sorry. Yeah, he is a bit of a heartthrob, I guess, if you're into that type of thing, but I'm not, but that's okay. I really would like that jersey though. That's kind of cool. Yes, you all will find out that I'm a Commanders fan. Hartman had a strong college career, being named the All-ACC twice in his career and passed for over 15,500 yards with 134 touchdowns across the 6 years. After going undrafted, he eventually inked a deal with the Commanders. He has not yet taken a snap in an NFL game in the regular season, but he did get some time with Washington in the preseason. He completed 9 out of 19 for 64 with one interception in the horrible loss of 48-18 to the New England Patriots. It wasn't a strong case to make Hartman, who is battling Marcus Mariota and Josh Joshin for a backup spot on the roster behind Jaden Daniels. The next game is August 18th against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I will try and be seeing it. All right. One last story before we get to our normal stuff. Hey, I may be on time today. This comes to us from 95.5 WSB out of Atlanta, News Talking Radio. Turns out Americans aren't great at identifying which personal decisions contribute most to climate change. Okay. A study recently published by the National Academy of Sciences found that when asked to rank actions such as swapping a car that uses gasoline for electric, carpooling, or reducing food waste, participants weren't very accurate when assessing how much those actions contributed to climate change, which is caused mostly by the release of greenhouse gases that happen when fuels like gasoline, oil, and coal are burned. People overassigned the impact to actually pretty low actions such as recycling and underestimate the actual carbon impact of behaviors much more carbon intensive like flying or eating a meal, according to a report from the co-author and the professor of the environmental social services at Stanford. The top 3 individual actions that can help the climate include avoiding plane flights, check, choosing not to get a dog. What? I'm a sport cat and I don't approve of that. And using renewable energy. While also the three that participates underestimated the most. Meanwhile, the lowest impact actions were changing to more efficient appliances and swapping out light bulbs, recycling, and using less energy on washing clothes. Those were 3 of the top 4 overestimated actions in the report. There's many reasons people are getting it wrong. Marketing focuses on recycling and using energy-efficient light bulbs. That's on why flights are dog adoptions. That's why flights or dog adoptions are relatively bad for the climate. So participants were more likely to give those actions more weight. Well, how the human brain is wired. You see the bottle recycled, that's visible, whereas carbon emissions, that's invisible to the human eye. So that's why they don't associate emissions with flying, said Jiang Zhou, who teaches psychology and sustainability at the University of British Columbia. He added, it's easier to bring actions to mind that we do more often. Recycling is almost always a daily action, whereas flying is less frequent. It is less discussed. And she said, as a result, people give higher psychological weight to recycling. Of course, there's a lot of misleading information. For example, some companies tout the recycling they do while not telling the public about the pollution that comes from their overall operations. There's been a lot of deliberate confusion out there to support policies that are really out of date, said Brenda Uzworski, a climate scientologist at the University of Concerned Scientists, a nonprofit. Well, why dogs have a big climate impact? I just can't. Dogs are big meat eaters, and meat is a significant contributor to climate change. That is because many of the farm animals will become food, release methane, a greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. Beef is especially impactful in part because around the world, cattle are often raised on land that was illegally deforested. Since trees absorb carbon dioxide, the most abundant greenhouse gas, cutting them to raise cattle is a double whammy. People just don't associate pets with carbon emissions. The link is not clear in people's minds, he said. Not all pets are the same. Now, he owns a dog and 3 rabbits. I can adopt 100 bunnies that will not be close to the emissions of a dog because my dog is a carnivore. The owner of a meat-eating pet can lower their impact by looking for food made from sources other than beef. Try to minimize the dog's carbon footprint by feeding less carbon-intensive protein sources, including seafood and turkey. Plants emit a lot of carbon dioxide and nitrogen oxides, also greenhouse gases. Additionally, planes emit contrails or vapor trails that prevent planet-warming gases from escaping into space. A round-trip economy flight on a 737 from New York to LA produces more than 1,300 pounds of emission per passenger, according to the International Civil Aviation Organization's, a UN agency. Skipping that single flight saves about as much carbon as swearing off eating all types of meat for a year or living without a car for more than 3 months. Other decisions, both impactful and minor, switching to energy that comes from renewable sources such as solar and wind has a large positive impact because such sources don't emit greenhouse gases. Some of the biggest climate decisions individuals can make include how they heat and cool their homes, what type of transportation they use. Switching to renewable energy minimizes the impact of both. Recycling is effective at reducing waste headed for the landfill, but its climate impact is relatively small because transporting and processing and repurposing recyclables typically relies on fossil fuels. Plus, less than 10% of the plastics actually get recycled, according to the EPA. Other decisions with overestimated impact, washing clothes in cold water and switching to more efficient light bulbs, are relatively less important. That's because those appliances have a relatively small impact compared to other things, such as plane fights and dogs. So improving on them, while beneficial, has a much more limited influence. The best way to combat human tendency to miscalculate climate-based decision is more readily available information, and to make accurate in their estimations would have been 10 or 20 years ago because it's easier to learn. The study backs up the hypothesis after participants finished ranking across, the researchers connected their mistakes and they changed with actions said they'd take to help the planet. People do learn from these interventions. After learning, they're more willing to commit to actually more impactful actions. So we got to get rid of the dogs. Is that what they're saying? I don't know about this. I can't. I just can't. I can't. I can't. Sportcat does not approve. All right. Well, let's get to what we normally do here. We talk about the daily operations briefing. Actually, let me do another thing real quick. Let me make this full screen and let me pay some bills and keep some tickets legal here. I got to find a button so that we are legal in Australia and we don't get our friends in trouble over there. Here we go.
You're listening to a Dare Media Group and Mastiff Media radio station. From Dare Media Group, Radio X Gold, Radio X Country, 6RXM, Radio X Magic, and Dare Talk Radio. And from Mastiff Media, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Forward Radio, Mastiff Sports, and Shady News Radio. For more information, visit daremediagroup.com.au or mastiff.medias.
You're tuned to the Sportcat Show.
There you go. All right, let's catch up in comments. Oh, hold on a minute. Let's go back here. Hartman isn't playing with Jay. With Jaden Daniels. No, he isn't. No, he isn't at all. There's not a chance. But if Jaden Daniels gets them ahead, he may come in. And Chris says, I'm not listening to this bullshit anti-dog propaganda. Right? And this is coming from a cat. Brenda says, mess with me and my dog FAFO. Chris says, I thought this article was stupid at the start. It gets surprisingly worse as it continues. The writer could conserve energy by turning off their computer and not typing this nonsense. And you know, Chris, one thing that none of them have mentioned is the effect on AI, because AI is requiring such a power drain on the system and the amount of water to cool the computers. And nobody's talking about that. It's funny. We like AI. We got to keep it. Oh, I don't like dogs. We got to get rid of them. All right. So the daily operations briefing, this is from FEMA as presented to the president every morning at 8:30 a.m. And this is the publicly released one that doesn't have the secret squirrel stuff. I got to really wonder, does the president read these every day? Or is there some intern that reads it? All right, so current things they are operating and monitoring. Well, the Glacier Lake outburst flood in Juneau. We talked about that one, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. Heavy rain flash flooding in the southern Appalachians. Check, we got lots of rain. Finally, critical fire weather in Idaho. Severe thunderstorms in South Dakota and Nebraska. And, well, we're talking about Aaron out in the Atlantic with not one, but two, and according to some news sources, 3 disturbances right behind it. Bing, bang, boom. And the Central Pacific, we're worrying about post-tropical cyclone Henriette. There are no new declarations. That will probably change in the next 48 hours, and no events they are monitoring. The Glacier Lake outburst flood in Juneau. Well, Mendenhall Lake level gauges, along with webcam images from Suicide Basin and water level data within the basin, indicate that it's releasing water into the Mendenhall Lake, and it's at a major flood stage. A crest is expected Wednesday afternoon near record levels between 16.3 and 16.8 feet. Flood warnings remain in effect for Mendenhall Lake and River through Thursday, according to the National Weather Service. So we know that they're already starting to evacuate the area. Search and rescue is going to be sent in, and they're saying that there's limited fire department search and rescue swiftwater capability. The needs are currently food, hydration, and shelter. There's only one shelter open currently with 0 occupants. And with the health and medical, dialysis facilities have already been evacuated. The wastewater treatment plant, which services 38,000 customers, is potentially going to be affected. Failure could lead to raw sewage into the river. In the energy, Alaska Energy and Light does not have a plan to shut off power unless there is a breach. For the communications, the PSAP Public Safety Answering Point is being routed and 911 employees may be impacted. And at this time, there is limited local and state hazmat capability to any large-scale release. It could require the EPA or Coast Guard for containment assistance. So the state and local response, well, City and Borough of Juneau has recommended that residents in the 17-foot lake level inundation zone evacuate. Flood barriers have been installed throughout the valley. And the FEMA response, well, they're deploying teams to Anchorage. They're staging management teams and deploying other teams. They'll be arriving August 15th. They're going to locate them in various areas. Multi-agencies are monitoring and preparations are ongoing. So what that means is they're probably contacting, I would say in that part of the country, they're going to look at swiftwater teams from Seattle, probably Los Angeles, Portland, and they'll probably move them up. But once again, you have to get permission from the governor. So if this doesn't happen on a minute's notice, it's not really their fault. They have to be required. There is a chain of command. So Tropical Storm Erin is in the Atlantic, and, well, we know she's a pain in the ass, but she's coming. She's 1,400 miles east of the northern Leeward Islands. She's moving west at 20 miles an hour. That changed yesterday. She was moving northwest. She has sustained winds of 45 miles an hour, and the tropical force winds go out over 60 miles. She's grown. She's strengthening, and forecast is to begin today, and Erin will likely become a hurricane by late Thursday or early Friday. And we'll look at her path here in a bit. So the tropical outlook, the Western Pacific, well, looks pretty good. Central and Eastern Pacific, well, Henriette's out there, but she's just kind of fading away, going to be doing nothing. She's slowing down. She's now at 45 miles an hour, and the eye extends out 60 miles an hour. So it's going to slow down and turn northward and then probably dissipate by the end of the week. And so there will be no more public advisories on her. In the Atlantic, well, we still got Tropical Storm Erin. We're going to talk about Disturbance 1. Some development of the system is possible after it emerges across the southwest Gulf beginning on Thursday. And we're just going to jump over to the Pacific. Disturbance 2 is a few hundred miles southeast of Nova Scotia, and chances are diminishing. That's because it's moving into colder waters. So the national weather forecast, well, we talked about this yesterday. South Dakota, get your rain hats on, get your boots on, keep your NOAA weather radio nearby because you're going to get hammered. The potential for severe storms and tornadic activity are possible. And here in the Appalachia Valley, from Georgia through West Virginia, Southwest Virginia, you can anticipate more heavy rain, and there is going to be flash flooding. That low is pushing down and causing rain to come from Colorado all the way up to Maine, back down to the Keys, with spotty showers, but the heaviest will be along the Appalachia Valley and the Chesapeake Bay region by tomorrow, moving to the northeast, affecting Maine later this week. All right, so tomorrow the chances of severe storms for the south dissipate. It will only be spotty rains, but that front is going to be pushing that terrible weather back up to North Dakota. So North Dakota and Minnesota tomorrow could be under the gun for that same severe weather. Friday, it appears that it's going to be calming down unless you're on the Atlantic coastal seaboard. Now, the fire weather outlook, well, pretty much let's just look at this as saying Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, and Las Vegas, and then basically down to the Four Corners region, you've got a elevated risk, but Idaho, you have a severe risk. And we know that storms have been caused by electrical activity storms have caused from the electrical activity fires. And actually there was a storm in, I believe it was Canada, where a fish was dropped by a bird, hit a power line, arced, causing the power line to go down to the ground and start a fire. So interesting. All right. So tomorrow it's going to be slightly less, but I would still keep my guard up because the fire weather danger is pretty bad. All right, so the hazardous outlook, well, they're saying the Dakotas. We talked about that. Wisconsin and Michigan will be under the gun as well. And we're looking at down there in the border with Texas, Arizona, and my geography's failing me. Down across the border. Oklahoma? No, that's up here. All right. Anyhow, along the border, all the way up through Texas, heavy rains for the next couple days. And in hazardous heat, it's following the Mississippi again, going straight up the Mississippi, almost to the Great Lakes. And you can expect hazardous heat on both sides of the Mississippi, and well, down in the Gulf of America and all of Florida are pretty much under the gun for heat. Wildfire summaries. Well, we've talked about this before. Utah, Colorado have several fires burning, and it really amazes me. They're not talking about the California fires here. I'm really hoping that's not left out for political reasons, because there's many lives that are affected by the California wildfires. The space weather outlook, it's relatively calm. We won't see any auroras. I saw a guy do a video on this, and he says that we are experiencing solar winds, which is putting us in a higher earthquake percentage. He predicts in the next 72 hours, there'll be at least a 6-point-something earthquake somewhere in the world. All right, so we look here and we see current operating picture. Well, there's 17 joint offices. We see they're operating pretty much contingency in the south, in the northeast, and they've moved over to Alaska. They're worrying about the fire out in the west. So there's 64 major disasters currently, 7 emergency declarations. When we say 64 disasters, remember that this also could be something that happened months ago. Like, we're still working to repopulate and rehouse Kentucky and the Carolinas. The Carolina operation goes back for over 12 months. So the major disasters don't just go away when they drop out of the headlines. They're still there. That's why the local communities need supports from other resources, because, well, the media drops them after it's no longer sensationalist. So there's 17 emergency declarations. We're still working with 12 direct housing missions. That's to repopulate and rebuild. 9 RSF supported disasters with 6 joint recovery offices. So, all right. And let's see. And we talked about all that yesterday. So let's move on here. Let's look at the president's schedule for today. We'll go back in time and see if we missed anything from yesterday. And let's see. Let me refresh this just in case. All right. So we'll go back to yesterday, and we talked about the press briefing, and then at 6 o'clock, they called the lid. All right. 9 a.m. was the time for everyone to report. In-town camera pool. 9:48, Tom Holdman is going to brief reporters at the Sticks. And if you know where the Sticks are, there's a driveway walking up to the White House. It's just off the West Wing. There are tents and canopies set up for reporters and agencies there. When they say they're at the Sticks, that's where they're at. That occurred at 9:48. A good resource, and he's my friend, and I don't even know if he knows I'm promoting him, but Penguin 6 on YouTube. I believe he's Penguin 6 on Facebook and X as well. He is a pool camera reporter, and he gives a lot of behind the scenes videos and photos. That's really cool, especially for someone like me who has been in Washington, D.C., grew up in Washington, D.C. It's kind of cool to see behind the scenes. So go check him out. And if you get a chance in the comments, tell him that I sent you. So maybe he'll recognize it. All right. So at 11 a.m., the president is departing the White House. He's going over to the Kennedy Center. That occurred at 11:16 a.m. actual. So he was a few minutes behind, and there was it wasn't an X post, a post on Truth Social that got the media in an uproar when he called it the Trump/Kennedy Center. He shouldn't do that. He's visiting and making an announcement. That was at 11:15. I do not know what the announcements were, and that was only for pre-credentialed media. Supposedly, it's going to be for people visiting the Kennedy Center, and I assume he's talking about performers. So And he arrived there at 11:23, at noon 10, 12:10. And the White House is going to have another meeting when the president arrives for the in-travel pool. In other words, they all line up there to get photos of as he gets out of the limo. And so he arrived there at 1:53. The president arrived at 1:53. Okay, so he was ahead of schedule. So no, he was behind schedule. And then at 4:00 to closed media, he's signing more executive orders. So stay tuned. We'll see what that is all about. Don't know. Let's jump over to WRC. They have live coverage of what's going on. And let's see if there's anything new. There's 10 new updates. Whew, can't wait to see. 5 minutes ago, tourists says she almost didn't come to DC because of the federal takeover. Are we just looking for somebody to interview? Is that what we're doing? Trump makes plans to make DC beautiful again. It will be a model for other U.S. cities. That was 36 minutes ago. 50 minutes ago, more National Guard troops are expected in D.C. as the mayor says, we're not some hellscape. Okay. Mayor Bowser pushes back against the Trump administration's depiction of the city. Tonight, we will see a significantly higher National Guard presence on the ground in the district. A White House officials told MSNBC operations will then begin 24/7 instead of mostly at night. The White House began deploying officers from a long list of federal law enforcement agencies onto the streets of D.C. last Thursday. Federal law enforcement officers and agents have made a total of 103 arrests. There's no crime, but in 24 hours, they've arrested 103 people, but there's no crime, since then the White House said, but no details were given about which agents or officers made the arrests. Okay, I'm just going to watch and see what happens. 103 total arrests. So there's no crime. Somebody do some math real quick. 103 divided by 24. How many arrests per hour was that? There's no crime in D.C. Yeah. Judge says he's skeptical of a Trump lawsuit against every federal judge in Maryland. I'm not even going to read that. Trump calls push for D.C. statehood ridiculous. Well, it's actually constitutionally illegal. Trump warns Russia will face very severe consequences if Putin doesn't agree to end the Ukraine war at the summit. All right, those are some stiff words. How Trump has changed the Kennedy Center. Well, in his visit to the Kennedy Center and his third trip to the storied Performing Arts Center in second terms, he worked to remake the center by naming himself chairman, firing board members, and replacing them with loyalists. He made his first visit this year in March, followed by a second in June. He has criticized it for hosting certain programs, including drag events. Several performers have since boycotted in protest. In June, the Republican proposes renaming the center after Trump and its opera houses after no. The move would, however, violate federal law that created the Kennedy Center, according to multiple sources. No, this does not need to be renamed to the Trump Center. No. I'll disagree with him there. He's going to ask Congress for an extension of the D.C. takeover. Well, they're currently on break, so they're going to have to come home. He told reporters at the Kennedy Center he's going to submit a crime bill to Congress and will ask lawmakers to approve an extension for his administration's federalization of the D.C. police to address crime. We're going to need a crime bill that we're going to be putting in, and it's going to be pertaining initially to D.C. We're going to be asking for extensions on that, long-term extensions, because you can't have 30 days. His emergency powers to take control of D.C. last for only 30 days. Any extensions must be approved by Congress. Trump's border czar says president's authority never expires. What? Tom Holman was asked about the Trump's takeover of the District Columbia Police Department and any concern that criminals who go into hiding could return after the end of the 30 days. Well, Congress would have to approve any extension, which he's apparently asking for. But Holman said at the White House that the president's authority is never over. Not sure what he means by that. Holman, he needs to qualify that. Holman often says this when talking about his immigration crackdown at the U.S.-Mexican border. The president is going to do what he has to do to make this country safe again in every city in this nation. Okay, I'm good with that. Trump announces George Strait, and I assume Stallone. I assume it's hold on, kiss for the Kennedy Center honors, and said he will host the award show. Why? President Trump on Wednesday named country music star George Strait, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, and singer Gloria Gaynor among the first batch of Kennedy Center honor nominees under his leadership as the center's chairman. He also said he would host the awards program. Doesn't he have enough to do as president? Just asking. The remaining two honorees are the rock band Kiss and actor-singer Michael Crawford. Asked how involved he was in the nomination process, he told reporters 98% in the selection process, adding that he turned down plenty. They were too, quote, woke. Trump avoided the Kennedy Center Honors Awards program during his first term after he said the artist would not attend out of protest. This year, the Republican president has taken over the Kennedy Center's as new chairman and fired the board of trustees, which he has replaced with his loyalists. They've said that already. Let's see. They're all headed towards Alaska. And Zelensky says he told Trump and European allies that Putin is bluffing. 3 hours ago, the U.S. national debt reaches $37 trillion. My question about this is they keep bragging about how much we've made on tariffs. Is that not going to that? Where is that money from tariffs going? We're making money on tariffs. It should be going to pay that down. And BLS, which is probably Bureau of Labor and Statistics, emails obtained by the Associated Press under the Freedom of Information Act. Trump fired Commissioner Erica Mickenfarter, suggested an agency with why little of corrupt partisanship had claimed what he called the report phony and rigged. Okay, he calls for integrity. He's invoking Trump's evolving rhetoric on Putin and Zelensky. You can read all this. It goes back in a timeline. And judges hearing arguments to halt alligator Alcatraz over environmental concerns. Yes, they're concerned that the alligators are being hurt. European leaders speak with Zelensky and Trump ahead of his summit. And let's see, we already knew that. And we already know it's going to be taking place in Anchorage. So there you go. We're caught up from WRC, even though somewhat biased. But all right, let me catch up on comments here. Let's see here. Going back, says Chris says the writer should add birds and fish is harmful to the environment for causing fires. There you go, Chris. And we know I just drew a total brain cramp. I just had another reason that they should call for something, but alligators. They're harming the alligators down in Florida. So why is some random woman's opinion considered news? Agreed, Chris. Agreed. But then again, people say that I'm pontificating and I'm just a bloated bag of hot air, which I'm not really arguing I am, but you know. All right, so the national briefing, we really already covered that. So we're going to move on from that to keep going with time. We talked about the tornado outlook, slight risk in South Dakota. I would take it serious, though, because over the past couple of days, it's shown us that these storms can be somewhat rocky, and high winds are expected in the Dakotas today and along the East Coast, pretty much from the Delmarva region all the way up through Nova Scotia and back in the Dakotas where we've already talked about. And in hail today, well, the chances of hail in South Dakota are not very high, but I would not rule them out. Let's look at a current weather radar. Well, if it will load and see what it is. Wait for it to load here. There we go. This comes to us from GEMA, but it is probably one of the better ones I've found so far. If anybody has a better one or wants to suggest one, please come over and find our group on Facebook. We have the Sportcat Daily Gazette group, where I encourage listeners and readers to come over and submit articles, and just interact with all of the chat people, because all my chat is usually pretty active in that. So, all right, we'll zoom in on the south first. Well, they have the special weather statement and the heat advisory. That's from Baton Rouge up to Memphis and back over to Texas. So watch out for that. We see the flood watches and warnings have already started from, northeast Alabama, northeast Georgia, central and east middle Tennessee, up to southwest Virginia. And that's all pretty much along the Appalachia Trail from West Virginia down, because of these storms that are going to be moving through the area, and they will be picking up. We talked about that for later today. Those same storms are going to be going to the northeast. And if you're up in the Jersey, New York area, you can anticipate, even actually Philly, DC, you can anticipate some heavy storms later today. So keep your NOAA weather radios on. And we've talked about air quality. Well, New York, New England, New Jersey, there's some air quality concerns. And that's because of the smoke coming out of the fires in Canada. We'll talk about that in a bit. There's also, and I've seen this on several groups, they're talking about that these fires contain different type of carcinogens in them. You need to remember that smoke is a byproduct of expressed energy, and if it's a dirty fire, it doesn't burn clean, and that's what the darker smoke is, and it has particulates of what is burning because it didn't burn clean. A clean burning fire destroys everything. There's very few of those. Usually they're man-made, but there's very few of those. So it's dirty fire. What it's not burning during the release of energy is going up into the air and outward, and it contains particles, from large particles you could see to minute ones that you cannot see. And the extent of the damage due to increased smoke can be all kinds of dirty things, including the C word. So if it's extremely smoky, turn your AC fan off, stay indoors. If you go outside and you're sensitive, wear a mask. It's not going to hurt. I'm not usually a mask preacher, but these fires are pretty intense up in Canada. So we'll zoom in here on the red flag warnings in Idaho, back over into Montana and Colorado, and up into actually Washington down to Oregon. The heat advisory in Arizona. We're going to look at their temperatures here in a minute. And extreme heat down in Southern California, extending back through the New Mexico border. KG says, on again, off again, drizzles here in Virginia, black clouds and lightning, but no rain. Yeah, it stormed here pretty heavily early. We'll zoom in on Alaska because, well, now we're kind of concerned about it because of ongoing events. Let's see the hydrologic outlook up there, and that's probably because of the melting glaciers and also by the heavy rains. And come back down here to Juneau, where there's the special weather statement, and it's also the state capitol. I would have really thought it would have been up here, but the state capitol is anticipating some more heavy rains coming in out of their Gulf. So drop over here and look. Well, there's Tropical Storm Erin from where she started to where they anticipate she's going to be. This is going to be on, I think, Sunday. We'll look at it, but they've said that she has a possibility of being a major hurricane up to 105 mile an hour winds or knots of wind. So we'll keep an eye on that. We still have about 10 or 12 days. Keep your eyes on that. If you're anywhere from Jacksonville up through the Chesapeake Bay region, that's coming. And then, of course, we'll talk about these other disturbances as we get on. And we'll look down here at the rain. Looks like in Brisbane, you've got some rains offshore. They'll be moving in from the west, from the east, coming to the west along the Gold Coast. Sydney, you have some rainy showers coming in right now. Perth, it looks like you've got spotty showers from Bunbury all the way up and through to... We're going to say Lenore because I can't pronounce the other city name. How about that? Let's see. We'll get a better picture of their radar here. Just 1 second. How about right now? There we go. All right. There's the current radar. And, that is what I wanted. You can see that most of the rain is offshore of Sydney and all the way up through the Gold Coast. And Brisbane is anticipating some light rain, but that'll be moving from the east to the west. And Albany, Perth, you have some light showers at this time. And we'll zoom out and go over to the U.S., but that's pretty much what we just looked at. That other one gives us just a better look at all the watches, warnings, and etc. We can jump to some forecasts here. Let's enlarge this. We'll keep going. We'll start down in Australia with our forecast. Well, currently in Sydney, you're at 59 degrees. That's going to be your high today. And you are going to have rainy skies with your high being at 55. Currently, it's 50 degrees in Brisbane. And you're going to have a cloudy, rainy day with your high of 65. So you haven't made it to your high yet. Cairns, it looks like it's going to be sunny with a high of 75. You are currently 62 degrees. Darwin, you are currently at 72 degrees, 73 degrees. But your anticipated high later today with sunny skies is going to be 90. Going down to Port Hedland, we're looking at right now, you're at 73 degrees. But your high today is going to be 83 with sunny skies. Perth, well, you're currently, 59 degrees. You're going to make it up only to a high of 61 with cloudy skies. And down here, is there anybody? Hobart is currently 40 degrees. You're going to have sunny skies and a high of 60. All right, let's go over to the U.S. and see what's going on over here. We'll start with the nation's capital. It's currently 81 degrees, but you can anticipate a high of 84 with rainy skies. New York, you're currently at 88, and you're going to have a high of, well, that is your high for the day. Up in Boston, it is currently 91. That is your high for today, and it's going to be partly sunny skies. And we go back over here to, where are we going? I want to go down here to Burlington, a high of 87, cloudy skies. You're currently 84. And Louisville, you're currently 81. You're going to have cloudy skies, 84 degrees. Atlanta, well, you're currently 86. And it's almost your high. You're going to be 87 with cloudy, rainy skies. Dallas, well, we don't like you, but it's 90. It's going to be 90. It is currently 86 degrees. Your high is 90 with partly cloudy, sunny skies. Albuquerque, it's currently 86 degrees. You're going to get to a high of 93, and it's going to be bright and sunny. Phoenix, you're already at 103, and your high is expected to be almost 110 with extremely bright sunny skies. Las Vegas, well, currently you're at 102 degrees. Your high is going to be 110. Whew, keep that over there. Let's go up here to Medford. Well, Medford, your high is going to be 94, and you're already waking up to 86 degrees. Seattle, well, Seattle right now is 69 degrees. Your high is going to be 76 with partly cloudy skies. We see once again here, let me zoom out, and it looks like Las Vegas is going to be the winner for the high. Tampa, you're only at 87. No, you're at 90 degrees right now. You're anticipated. That is your high. Cloudy, rainy skies. All right, we look at Aaron out here. They anticipate that this code of uncertainty, by Monday at 8 a.m., they anticipate her to be a Cat 3. That's new. That was not this way this morning. So we need to keep an eye on her. She's a Cat 3, and the driving forces behind her, well, I'll show you here in a minute. Let's refresh this real quick. These are current warnings and watches. This is thanks to WX Warn. You can go check them out. Special weather statement in New York and severe thunderstorms in Mississippi. Puerto Rico, you have a flood advisory. And there's our test message for Maryland. I need to homework that and find out why they do that so often. Georgia, South Carolina, well, you've already got your heat advisory. Special weather statement for North Carolina. It's probably going to be for the heavy rains. And let's see, gale warnings pretty much across all of the mid-Atlantic coast up and through the Chesapeake. And the heat advisory is for Florida, Georgia, flooding later today. Texas, special weather statement. That's due to probably the heat. Yes, extreme heat going to be up in Boston and Maine, New Hampshire, so they can expect that. Flood advisories for us here in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. And that heat advisory is coming up out of the Mississippi, and it's going to continue to the north. I saw something just got updated here. Special weather statement. It's probably for thunderstorms. Yep, thunderstorms coming up to the southwest side of the city in Atlanta. Let's look at the lightning activity real quick and see what we got. This comes to us from lightningmap.org. And we can see, well, Atlanta, yes, those storms are moving up into your suburbs. They're coming out of Montgomery. They do look. Columbia. Whoa. Where did I go? What happened? Am I still here? I guess I'm still here. Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. I don't know. E.T. Let's see. Over on the coast, this is just north of Charleston. And between Charleston and Myrtle Beach, there's a pretty good cell there with a lot of electrical activity. Another one up in Wilmington. And Richmond, you're getting hammered at the moment. In Virginia, back over in West Virginia and Pennsylvania, you're getting hammered. The whole national forest there is getting hammered pretty hard in West Virginia. And that's going to continue up through Hagerstown, where our friends are, into Chambersburg. And this whole line is extending all the way. You can see it almost from Rutland down to Southwest Virginia, the West Virginia line. And that's following the west side of the Appalachia. So that's where all that energy is just rolling back onto the pressure coming from the northeast. We look back here to the west where the fire weather danger is the worst. We don't see any major activity. There's a small cell here in northern Wyoming, but nothing too major. Dakota right now, well, you've got a small storm cell. It doesn't look to be producing much there in Aberdeen, but I would keep my weather radar on just in case. We'll look at power outages real quick. And the only place reporting greater than 10,000 is California at 11,005. All right. All right. The space weather prediction, we talked about this. Pretty much mild. Nothing to report. The aurora forecast, nothing affecting the lower 48. So you're not going to see any aurora. And we talk about the heat risk. We've talked about this already. Florida, you're mostly code red. Pretty much all of the South from Texas through Maine. You're either code red or code orange, and that means code red is major. You need to be worrying about cooling and hydration. Stay outside, wear sunscreen. Don't stay outside too long, wear sunscreen, hydrate. And the orange is the moderate. Well, you still need to be worrying about cooling yourself and hydration. So Chris says, you talk about investigating the Maryland test messages and your feed is cut. Hey, that's true. Maybe a warning from another Orioles fan to stay out of his business. I had not thought of that. Good point, Chris. Good point. I don't know. He might be listening, so I better hush. Most of the U.S., with the exception of up there in the Wisconsin, we got to refresh that because that just didn't look right. Up through Wisconsin is under either a yellow or an orange. The West, you're pretty much code red or orange there to around the Sierra Nevadas. In the Midwest, you're pretty much the same. So through the Rocky Mountains there. And do we have anything? Does it show us if anything's going on up here? No, it doesn't. I guess there's nothing going on in Alaska as far as heat. So all the heat is, the worst heat right now is pretty much in the New England area, the Floridian area, down in the South Texas area, and then the Rocky Mountains going from Southern California up through Idaho. Those are the worst areas of it right now. So, interesting. Didn't know I could do that. All right, we're going to move on because I don't want to run out of time here. We're 37 minutes in and definitely want to talk about these things right here. This is the National Hurricane Center. This is the 7-day graphic. Let's zoom in and take a look at Erin and see what they tell us. All right, so the wind speed probabilities, they're forecasting that she's going to continue to the east and turn slightly to the northeast. And this will put anywhere from Jacksonville to, looks like probably Oak Island, North Carolina, under the gun. The high winds are extending out up to, what is this? At the center, she's got 80, 90 degree winds extending out all the way up and over to 70 degrees. The arrival time, the winds will start arriving first. We see that the Dominican, Sunday at 8 a.m., she's going to be off the coast. She's south of Bermuda, so there shouldn't be much of a damage there. And here we get into that cone of uncertainty. Where she is and where she's going, nobody knows. So they're predicting by Monday at 8 a.m., she's going to be still out to sea, probably another 7 days away, but we need to start preparing. Anywhere from Jacksonville, I say Oak Island, but probably to the Chesapeake Bay, to Virginia Beach, needs to be preparing. So we don't know where she's going and what's going on. So there's no current watches, warnings, or anything, but we're going to keep an eye on that. So the key message is it could move close enough to the northern Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico over the weekend to produce some impacting winds. The magnitude of those impacts is still unknown, and interest should continue to monitor the storm. There's a greater chance of uncertainty in the Greater Antilles and the Bahamas, East Coast of the United States, and Bermuda next week as we approach the peak of hurricane center. That's something to remember. We're in the peak of hurricane season. So let's keep an eye on Aaron. And then I really don't anticipate. Let me go back again. Where am I going? Come on. I'm going back. Okay. I don't anticipate this is going to do much, but we'll take a look at it. I'll try and take a look at it. All right. Well, it's only giving me that. So they're talking about the tropical depression down in the Gulf of America that's going to move to the southwest. It's probably going to cross over Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula. It may become organized, but right now chances are pretty low for it. Less than 10%. It depends on where it crosses and if it crosses. So there's another disturbance back up here that's pretty much diminished, and there's two more waves coming off of Africa that we'll be talking about. So, all right, so here we see, here is where it was, and this is where they predict her to be Monday at 8 a.m. as a Category 3. We zoom in there, and Aaron is going to be, they're forecasting 8 a.m., 120 degrees. So we'll keep an eye on that. She will be north of the Bahamas and south of Bermuda. And like I said, cone of uncertainty, I would say, actually, I might even go down as far as Titusville up to Oak Island or Chesapeake Bay. Keep your eyes and ears open, your weather radio on, because that could be damaging for us next week and especially the week after. Let's refresh this a bit. All right, so this is our AI wind. We love this one. This is where we get to sit back and look at the big, beautiful globe. And we can see the winds as drawn by AI is pretty current and accurate. So what I was talking about is driving this storm. You see these winds down here, and it's also bringing dust off of Africa. We see these winds. That's going to be driving this storm. It's entering those winds right now. How much it will drive these storms to the south and to the west, we don't know yet, but she's going to be entering these higher winds. But these disturbances up here are going to be moving down over the next couple days, and by next week should be off of the coast of the Atlantic, and that could push her further to the south, or it could push her, depending upon timing, further to the northeast out of our harm's way. But they're anticipating that's going to push it further to the south, which would keep that cone of uncertainty pretty much from the Florida coast all the way up to Oak Island down through there. And there's a small tropical disturbance coming this way from the west, but I don't think it's going to be enough from what I've read to predict to cause anything as far as steering or changing the direction. And we'll see here in a bit that the dust coming off of the coast of Africa is helping to keep the speed down. But once she crosses through these winds, this is going to be cooler winds because the dust is not allowing it to heat up and be icy. it's causing it to be more icy. Once it crosses over there, when it gets out into these warmer waters in the Atlantic, that's when she's going to get into where's she going and then how strong. They're already calling for her to be a Cat 3 if she continues on her current path by Monday morning. So keep your eyes, ears, weather radio on. Down in Australia, let's zoom in and see what you got down there. Ooh, looks like it's going to be a windy day on the south into the west side of the island, on the northeast side. And, well, the tip up there, it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad. Nice and calm, windy day, except for the south in the west side. I'm sorry, the west side of the continent. West side of the continent in the southern section is going to be kind of windy. The rest doesn't look too bad for you. All right. We go next to, there are no tsunami warnings, threats, or watches. That's always good news. Look at the dangerous air conditions real quick before we run out of time here. And I'm going to have to refresh this because it's gone bonkers. Chris, it was that test message. That's what it was. It got me. So, all right. We see the worst current air quality right now up over Lake Superior, Wisconsin, pretty much from Canada coming on down through Fargo, down into Madison, Wisconsin, even further down into Springfield in Illinois, code yellow. And we see here Cincinnati. Well, we know you're a dirty city to the east of you, code yellow. Up along the coast, New York, obviously in Philadelphia, code yellow. Get up into Boston and you follow the east side of the Appalachia. They're going to have some code yellow conditions, even extending over to the west slightly, but that's going to be further down over the Adirondacks, closer to Syracuse. And up in New England, all of Maine and Boston, code yellow, code orange currently. Here in the deep south, we look fairly clear. Go back over to the west, and it's spotty from Las Vegas to San Diego to Tucson. And you are code yellow. Seattle, you have a code yellow for today. Salt Lake City to your east, all the way over to the Four Corners. Denver, Salt Lake, code yellow. Santa Fe, you'll probably be code yellow as the air moves through during the day. So keep that in mind if you're outdoors. Let's look at the fires real quick. And we see, what do we see? Well, we see Canada is burning still. And all that is burning. So we still have the fires out in Colorado that are burning, and Arizona, LA, San Diego. I just don't understand why those aren't on the FEMA report. Up in Seattle, then you have the fires back over here where that code red fire danger is. They have some fires already burning. And then you get over into Idaho. Well, there are already some fires there, and it's a code red day. Let's take a look at the smoke. All the fires, with the exception of, no, actually, this will be too, the Backbone Fire, are west of the Mississippi. So west of the Mississippi is where all the fires are. You see how it's, this is a good example right here. All right, you see, I zoom in, it goes away. Zoom out. All right. So you see how from Milwaukee through New Orleans, all these little red dots are. Well, what that is radar or satellite indicated fires. And this is due to those storms and the heat to the following the Mississippi from the lakes all the way down to the Gulf. Remember, just because there's a red dot there does not mean it's a fire. It just means that it was indicated by satellite or someone called it in. All right, this is the smoke. It takes this one a second to draw. I want to take a good close look at this because we are concerned about the air quality conditions from this fire. We are concerned about them because it should be drawing. I thought I hit F5. Oh, here I hit it again. There we go. See what happens. Boom. There we go. All right. So I want to talk about this a little bit more today because a lot of podcasters are making a pretty big deal out of it. Not that they shouldn't, but these fires are burning pretty much from Alaska down to the American border with Canada. And then we have the fires over to the west in Washington, and of course, obviously California, Colorado, Arizona. But these fires are producing an intense amount of smoke. It's dirty smoke, and that means it's got particulates. And so it's moving through the air. You may not always be able to see it, but if you can smell it, it's in the air. And we know just by the jet stream and by the radar where the smoke is going and indicated. So St. Louis up to Lake Superior, over through Nova Scotia, down to the DMV district, Maryland, Virginia. You all need to be really concerned if you're outside. If you're in that area and you're outside and you can smell smoke, extended exposure to heavy smoke conditions can cause illnesses. And if you're predisposed to any type of asthma or anything like that, like I have a friend that's in Colorado, they've had to put actual filters in their daughter's room because the smoke is too great coming in. They actually live to the west of Denver, coming in through the AC units. So they've had to put air filters in their room, and their daughter at night on CPAP with a mask that's filtered twice because of her really bad allergies and asthma. So she is predispositioned to it, though, and the smoke particles are heavier where she lives. But I don't want anybody to take it too lightly. But I don't want anybody freaking out going, oh, I smell smoke, I'm going to get cancer. It doesn't work that way. I just want you to know that there are particulates in the air and that they can be dangerous with long exposure. So keep that in mind. If you're outside, it's smoky, you can always go in or put on a mask and check your air conditioning vents. All right, we're going to do the air quality alert real quick. We talked about this coming off of Africa. It's always fascinating. We see how this is being pushed to the south, and this is where Erin is right now. She's sitting in that so she's not allowed to grow. It's inhibiting the to severe icy, or it's causing more icy conditions and not allowing the warm water that she needs to grow. But when she gets out here, it's game on. So, and we see, if you zoom in, we talk about where these winds are coming down up here. It's way up here actually at the moment. When this comes down and how this comes down, it depends on where she's going to be driven by these winds and these winds next week. So that's what we want to pay attention to when she gets just to the south of Hamilton, Bermuda, when she gets into that warm water and where these winds are driving her. I want to keep an eye on that. All right, we're running really close on the time today, so I want to kind of skim through real quick. Total seismic activity for today is moderate. There are some prognosticators calling for a more severe 6-point-something earthquake. It's probably, we don't want to rule it out, but probably somewhere off the coast of Russia or the Alaskan islands. But there's also, we got to remember the South American plates are very active as well. Wouldn't rule out, because even over the Carolinas, they had several small earthquakes over the past couple of days. Let's take a look and see real quick. Volcanic activity, code orange for the Great Sitkin volcano. The Spur is a code yellow, and Kilauea is also a code orange. So those are the three right now that are elevated to keep an eye on. And if we look real quick, this is, I pulled up this earthquake map. It's a little better because of the colors. Purple is the most recent. We see the most recent appears to be down here in Greater Los Angeles, and it was a 2.3. But the people who are predicting it are calling for it to be over here off the coast of Russia or off the Alaskan coast. We see there was another one here, or was that Pakistan? Western Turkey, a 1.6 was the most recent. So, and then let's see, we have this one down here in Indonesia, 3.8. And in Indonesia, another one at 3.6. All right, so let's move on real quick. This is the disaster map. Let's see what the 23 new notifications are. Thunderstorms, heat, and thunderstorms, air quality. Yeah, we've covered most of this. Greece, there's severe wildfires. Wasn't aware of that. And flooding in Alabama and Tennessee. Obviously, we knew about that. Wildfires in Spain. All right, I didn't know about that. So we'll zoom out and take a look here. This is the disaster alert map. You can go find this at disasteralert.org, and it'll show you all of these, and you can get more in-depth information. Like, for instance, looking at Erin, they're talking about where she could be and what scale she's going to be. Once again, breaking news, she's been predicted to be up to a 3 by Monday morning once she crosses out of that dust. So zooming in on America, we see here in the south, wind conditions in the air. Maine, over on the West Coast, the worst damages are the wind and, of course, fire and some heat in Southern California, and then up into Seattle, British Columbia. You've got to worry about the wildfires and the air quality. Back over to Australia, your main concerns at the moment are the wildfires in the western section, and then they're going to be growing in the northern territory as well. And then we have high winds down in the Western Australia area, extending over to Victoria Harbour and Melbourne. Then we're going to have frost. Okay. Frost in Melbourne overnight due to extreme temperatures. Wasn't aware of that one. All right, there we go. And in frost in Barrie, South Australia. Okay, so there'll be frosty conditions overnight. All right, we just got a couple minutes left. Let's see. And we don't really have time for this one. Just scan through real quick and see. All right, I don't see much. I still need to research the broccoli killing people. That one got me. Take a real quick look at the military aircraft. We should start seeing a lot of activity up here. They're going to be moving things. That's the Coast Guard with the C-130. And we're going to see, what are these? 737s. These are moving things. They're not, they're moving things and people. So they're coming out of Alaska, moving things and people. And this is a tanker. It's not showing its track, so that's interesting. And this probably is a tanker here. Yep, and it's showing its track pretty much from the Baja up through California and back. Remember, as they're circling around, they're not going to show you what's going on. Several trainer airplanes, the T-38s up and about down along the border. Obviously, lots of operations here in the Gulf. The same thing. It's a lot of training. And, of course, always around Florida on the coastline, you have training. This is all these areas off to the east are danger boxes is what they're called, where they do a lot of training. And you get up along the D.C. area, and you're going to start seeing a lot of aircraft moving around. They're going to start moving research assets and things ahead of the visit to Alaska, so we can keep an eye out for that. There's also been a lot of aircraft moving across the drink, and we don't know if it's getting prepared over here for either a confrontation in the Middle East or if it's a humanitarian effort in another part of the Middle East. So there's a lot of stuff and a lot of things being moved around at the moment, and that's okay. You don't often see a Russian military plane advertised. Interesting. All right. And Gulfstream from Sweden, that's probably moving dignitaries around. And Poland's military is up there doing something. All right, we're not too concerned about that. But there you go. That's the activity. You can zoom in and look at these. You can go to ADC or you can look at it on GlobeWatch, either one, and then you can kind of form your own opinions. I look to see up here ahead, no boxes are coming up yet for probably the visit. I assume that these will start real soon. We'll start seeing these going up. They've already put the national security one up over Joint Base Elmdorf Richardson, and then they've lowered the air to, you can't when I say lowered, they lowered the ceiling, so they've limited any drone activity coming up there too. So very good. They've already started putting them up. you'll start seeing they'll move across the country as well as the dignitaries move ahead. And of course, obviously down here in Washington, we have the same normal ones at 35 to 50 mile cone. And what's this over here? National security by the DOD to the northwest of Baltimore, or northeast of Baltimore. Interesting. Don't know what that is. That's probably a dignitary moving there. It could be the number 2 in command. And down there, there's also some ones, but that's the main ones. And of course, then you go down to Florida, down here in Mar-a-Lago, you'll see even more. So there you go. Those are complete no-fly zones. Stay out of them. All right, we're going to go out of here. I didn't get a chance really to look at Ship Explorer. The only thing, well, which one did I want to look at? The only thing interesting that you see in, where is it? You get right down in here in this area in the Middle East. That area, there is a real narrow passageway, and you're going to see, of course, that country is not friendly to us. You're seeing a lot of tankers parked and not doing anything, either out in the Gulf of Aden, the Arabian Sea, or even up in here. They're just parked. They're not moving. Keep an eye on that, because that's going to cause gas prices to go up over the next several days. We're going out of here with Bitdefender, as we always do. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and checking me out and listening to me babble, of course. I'll be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have the Paranormal Guys. Check us out there. We have a comic book artist and author of the Bigfoot Detective. And then we have Carissa from Northeast Tennessee here. She's going to talk about her Buffy the Vampire goes way back in the West to her heroine, superhero character. So we'll be live tonight at 9 p.m. Everybody have a great day. I will see you tonight. Until then, Sportcat is out. Let me play my commercial to keep me out of trouble.